Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Baba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Gopijana Baba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana Radha Dhanaranjana Jaya Radha Dhanaranjana. Yasodanandana Radha Dhanaranjana Jaya Radha Dhanaranjana. Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Baba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Gopijana Ballabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana Radha Dhanaranjana Jaya Radha Dhanaranjana. Yasodanandana Radha Dhanaranjana Jaya Radha Dhanaranjana. Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhangsa Parvadakacharya Asadhara Satushi Shiman. His Divine Grace Shalisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hariva Slava Zarani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Gurangi. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tenamane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyadyade Satarne. Om Agana Tivanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vrijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitams Cha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchena Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Siddhadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakapa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Prayers by the Demigods, text number 11 to 12. Namadeyani Korvanti Stanani Chanarabhuvi Durgeti Badra Kaliti Vijaya Vaishnavitich Vijaya Vaishnavitich Viticha Namadeyani Korvanti Stanani Chanarabhuvi Durgeti Badrakaliti Vijaya Vaishnaviticha Ladies. Namadeva Kurvanti Stanani Chanarabhuvi Durgeti Badrakaliti Vijaya Vaishnaviticha Namadanyani Kurvanti Stanani Chanarabhuvi Durgeti Badrakaliti Vijaya Vaishnaviticha Namadeyani. Different names. Korvanti will give. Stanani in different places. Cha also. Nara persons interested in material enjoyment. Bhuvi on the surface of the globe. Durga iti. The name Durga. Bhadrakali iti. The name Bhadrakali. Vijaya. The name Vijaya. Vaishnavi iti. The name Vaishnavi. Cha also. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna blessed Maya Devi by saying, in different places on the surface of the earth, people will give you different names such as Durga, Bhadrakali, Vijaya, Vaishnavi, Kumuda, Chandika, Krishna, Madhavi, Kanyaka, Maya, Narayani, Ishani, Sharada, and Ambika. Purport. Because Krishna and his energy appeared simultaneously, people have generally formed two groups, the Shaktas and the Vaishnavas. And sometimes there is rivalry between them. Essentially, those who are interested in material enjoyment are Shaktas, and those interested in spiritual salvation and obtaining the spiritual kingdom are Vaishnavas. Because people are generally interested in material enjoyment, they're interested in worshiping Maya Devi, the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vaishnavas, however, are Shuddha Shaktas, or pure Bhaktas, because the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra indicates worship of the Supreme Lord's energy, Hara. A Vaishnava prays to the energy of the Lord for the opportunity to serve the Lord along with his spiritual energy. Thus Vaishnavas all worship such deities as Radha, Krishna, Sitaram, Lakshmi Narayana, and Rukmini Dwarkadisha, whereas Durga Shaktas worship the material energy under different names. The names by which Maya Devi is known in different places have been listed by Vallabhadacharya as follows. In Varanasi, she is known as Durga, and Avanti, she is known as Bhadrakali. In Orisha, she is known as Vijaya. In Kalapura, she is known as Vaishnavi or Mahalakshmi. The representative of Mahalakshmi and Ambika are present in Bombay. In the country known as Kamarupa, she is known as Chandika. In northern India as Sharada, and in Cape Comorin as Kanyaka. In Ljubljana as Maya. Thus she is distributed according to various names in various places. Srila Vijayadwaja Tirthapada in his Padma Pada Ratnavali Tika has explained the meanings of the different representations. Maya is known as Durga because she is approached with great difficulty, as Bhadra because she is auspicious, and in Kali because she is deep blue. Because she is the most powerful energy, she is known as Vijaya. Because she is one of the different energies of Vishnu, she is known as Vaishnavi. And because she enjoys in this material world and gives facilities for material enjoyment, she is known as Kumada. Because she is very severe to her enemies, the Asuras, she is known as Chandika. And because she gives all sorts of material facilities, she is known as Krishna. In this way, the material energy is differently named and situated in different places on the surface of the earth. Lord Krishna blessed Maya Devi by saying, in different places on the surface of the earth, people will give you different names, such as Durga, Bhadrakali, Vijaya, Vaishnavi, Kamuda, Chandika, Krishna, Madhavi, Kanyaka, Maya, Narayani, Ishani, Sharada, and Ambika. Namo Vishnu Vraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskadyade Satarne. bhakti-yogena manasi samyak pranihite male paishat purusham purnam maya tat apashrayam. So bhakti-yogena manasi samyak pranihitam male apaishat purusham purnam maya tat apashrayam. Srila Vyasadeva was despondent because he didn't know what the ultimate goal was, although he had compiled all the Vedic literature. It's not that he didn't know, but he didn't express it in the Vedic literature. He had compiled all the Vedic literature, including the Mahabharata and the Puranas, and still he was not feeling very enlivened. So Narada Muni came and told him, it's because you haven't concentrated upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, without that concentration, you can't feel happiness or peace. So then Srila Vyasadeva took it seriously, and he gave up all other activities and sat in meditation and saw the personality of Godhead. Bhakti-yogena manasi, by the process of bhakti, fixing his mind in devotion upon the Supreme Person, bhakti-yogena manasi, samyak pranihita male, without any other conception or any other distraction, amale, purely he fixed his mind upon Krishna. Bhakti-yogena manasi, samyak pranihite male, apaishat purusham purnam. Then he saw the Supreme, complete personality of Godhead. He saw the person who has all opulence. If we find someone who has unlimited beauty and strength and knowledge and fame, renunciation and wealth, we'd be quite satisfied if we're not envious of them. Maya chad tad apaishram. But then he saw Maya was also there. Krishna is always with his energy. Just like the sun is always with the sunshine, it is not that the sunshine can exist apart from the sun, or the sun will not have sunshine. So Krishna is always with his energy. The difference between the Vaishnavas and the Shaktas is that the Vaishnavas accept the Supreme Lord with energy, and the Shaktas only accept the energy. So it's not as complete as the conception of the Vaishnavas. Now when one is under the influence of the illusory energy called Maya, which it just so happens every conditioned soul is under the influence of the illusory energy. So that's one thing we have to do is accept. First of all, understand that we're under the influence of the external energy of Krishna, which is not our normal state of being. So unless we accept that, then we accept material nature as reality, our eternal reality, or at least reality during this lifetime. Without understanding, we're in a foreign condition. We're in a, sometimes probably say, a disease condition. And therefore, we should feel uneasy. If you're feeling happy being in a disease condition, then that's a very bad sign. If you have 107 temperature and you're happy about it, just like Prabhupada gives the example, that one lady of the house, the head of the house, she had 105 temperature, so they called the doctor and he came, but her servant was also sick. So the doctor also examined the temperature of the servant, and she had 106 fever. So the lady, the head of the house, was informed that you have 105 temperature, but your servant has 106. And so the lady became very envious and said, well, why does she have 106 and I only have 105? So unless we can understand that the material nature is not our natural state, then we may become envious of someone who's more in Maya than we are. Why do they have so much fame? Why do they have so much wealth? Why do they have so much knowledge? Why do they have this and that? Why do they have more than I do? I want this. So that's the worst possible condition one can be in. It's bad enough to be an illusion, but to want more illusion. Queen Kunti said, this is the worst thing. Both as Queen Kunti was praying, actually we've been placed in so many different difficulties. Vishan Mahagne, Purushara Darshanam, Asara Sabha, Vanavana Krichata, Mride Mride Neka, Maharatastra, Dronyastra Masma, Virakshitaha. That we've been fed poison, Bhima specifically, was fed poison by the Kauravas. They were put into a house which was set on fire. They were forced into the jungle where they were attacked by a man-eater, Rakshasa. So many things happened to them, and Queen Kunti was praying, Vipadak Shantu Tak Shasvat Tat Tat Prapyush that I wish we can see these calamities again and again, so that we can see you again and again, because by seeing you, there'll be no more seeing a repeated birth and death. That I wish, Ritadak Shantu Takshasvat Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru Bhavato Darshanam Nasyat Apuna Bhavadarshana. Because if we have hopes for the future in the material world, we're hoping for the wrong world. We should have hope for the spiritual, coming to spiritual consciousness and the experience what's going on in the spiritual world. But to expect some improvement in the material world, in our material existence, is not very hopeful. Because even when we get a material improvement, it's not going to last. But we're actually trying to prepare ourselves for leaving the body. And leaving the body is not always the most pleasant experience. As I said, we wish people happy birthdays, but we hardly ever sing at their death day, happy death day to you, happy death day to you. Death day is usually not the happiest day in people's lives. Unless unless your relatives, it may be a happy day for them. If you left them a large amount of money, then they may sing, happy death day to you. But ordinarily, it's not a very pleasant time. So if we're trying to always have a pleasant time in this material world, and we're not preparing ourselves for the unpleasant time, no experience of how to be situated in Krishna consciousness in the midst of difficulty, then we've wasted our time. And if we're lamenting, I'm in a difficulty. Well, everyone is in a difficulty. And if we're lamenting about being in a difficulty, that's the worst difficulty. And if one is able to tolerate the difficulty, that's most auspicious. That's the greatest learning, to tolerate difficulty. To be happy when you're in a good situation is also learning to actually remain Krishna conscious in spite of the euphoria of not having so many problems. Just like if one has a toothache, one is suffering and is concentrating on the toothache, there's a lot of suffering. And when the toothache goes away or is cured, then one is seemingly happy. Oh, I'm so feeling so. But no one runs around the block shouting, my teeth don't hurt. I'm so blissful. On the other hand, if our teeth don't hurt, then we still have to chant Hare Krishna and try to fix our minds upon Krishna. If there's no problem, we shouldn't try to look for something that will cause us a problem. Instead, we should try to utilize the opportunity to fix the mind upon Krishna. But Maya, yoga, chalati, manasa, Maya will always try to persuade us that if you can, first of all, try to become peaceful and happy in the material world, and then you can become Krishna conscious after. But there's never going to be a time when we're going to feel peaceful and happy. And therefore, whether we feel peaceful, relatively more peaceful, or relatively more happy, or relatively more distressed, or relatively more unhappy, we should still try to fix our mind upon Krishna. And to do so, we should, to the best of our capacity, see what kind of service it's possible to perform for him. dukeshu vagmanangaminak sukeshu vigatas priha, vita raga bhaya krodha stiti dhiramuni uchate. That one who's not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who's not elated when there is happiness, and who's free from attachment, fear, and anger, is known as a sage of steady mind. So this is our goal, to become a sage of steady mind. If we put that down on our calendar to achieve that, then we've actually utilized properly this valuable human form of life. So Maya is meant to help us that. She's bhakti-yogena manasi samyak pranihite male. The absolute pure personality of Godhead has nothing to do with our miseries. Sometimes we think that somehow or another, because God is in control of everything, therefore He's responsible for my situation. No, it's our desiring to be put into certain material circumstances that's the cause of our problems. And we've desired it, and therefore it's been awarded to us according to our activities and our desires. We're finding ourselves in a certain circumstance now. And then we shouldn't blame God because it's simply due to our desires. On the other hand, if we change our desires to Krishna consciousness, then even if this body and the mind are situated in a certain situation or a certain experience, we won't be disturbed by it because we'll be on a different platform of experience. If we try to chant Hare Krishna, try to pay attention, try to chant lovingly, try to feel Krishna's presence, then Krishna may, if we actually want to experience Krishna consciousness, if we pray to Krishna to experience Krishna consciousness, which is the Hare Krishna mantra, then Krishna might allow us to experience Krishna consciousness. If He sees that's what we really want, and then we can see the difference between our present material consciousness and our real consciousness. So Maya has come to different places. She's even here, as I said, we only know her here as Maya, but she's here, she's everywhere in the material world, helping us forget Krishna. If that's what we want, she'll help us in every respect. Always forget Krishna and never remember Him, and see everything outside of Krishna consciousness. And if we want to remember Krishna, if we want to see everything in relation to Krishna, then Krishna will give us His spiritual energy, and that energy, everything becomes clear. In material energy, when we're under the aspect of material energy, everything is unclear. Nothing is really clear 100%. We hear that we're not this body, so at least we have something to clarify. Otherwise, the materialists have no idea what's going on. If you go on the internet on any subject, there'll be 100,000 million different opinions on the same thing, different ways of seeing it. And we can choose one of them, we can choose 100 of them, but we'll never understand anything perfectly. Only when we see things in Krishna consciousness, when things become simple, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that one who can see two energies, one who sees this is chapter 13. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavar jangamam kshetra kshetrage samyoga tadvidi bharatar shiva. One who can see, O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both among the moving and the non-moving beings, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Actually, reality is quite simple. There's the souls, and then there's material energy, and that's it. And they've made everything else so complicated, talking about everything about the body, about the mind, psychology, etc., so many different things. Nothing about the soul. And even when they talk about the soul, it's usually in reference to the mind. They think the mind is the soul, their feelings. But we're none of these things. We're simply the observer and the experiencer, the desirer, and we're desiring this material energy in so many different ways. And it's always disappointing, because the material nature, we can't really have the same relationship with the illusion, something that's ever-changing, as with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because the material nature is not the source of endless bliss. It's not the source of ever-growing consciousness. It's not the source of anything permanent or stable. It's just the opposite. But that's what we want, and that's only found when we dedicate ourselves to serving Krishna rather than simply our senses. We can serve our senses, but we serve our senses in order to please Krishna, to serve Krishna. And then we can actually experience Krishna consciousness, and then our senses will actually be satisfied if we become Krishna conscious. Then we'll be actually taste what everything is actually like. Everything actually has taste. Everyone has taste. Everything is actually pleasurable, but because we're covered by Maya, trying to enjoy it without Krishna, therefore we're trying to eat a big meal without teeth. Very difficult. Better put the teeth in, and then it's a lot easier to chew. So try to enjoy the material nature without taking help of Krishna to help us digest it and see it properly is just a painful experience. But once we have Krishna, then everything becomes in Krishna's association. When the spark is back into the fire, then it grows very brightly, and everything becomes very illuminating. And when the soul is outside the fire, it may try to imagine itself to be illuminating, but compared to the fire, it's a pretty small spark. And when the soul goes around saying, "See how bright I am," no one will really accept them, because anyone who has experience of the actual fire will think that the soul is just an imitator of the real thing, which is the fire. So as long as we try to imitate the real fire, Krishna, then we'll simply be an insignificant spark. But when we jump into the fire and serve Krishna and present Krishna, then we in the fire will be seen as very bright. So that's our business. We can try to present Maya as so glorious, but Maya is not so glorious. It's without Krishna, it's not so glorious. But when we present this energy as Krishna's, then Krishna is there too. And then it becomes a spiritual energy. And therefore everything becomes glorious. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes. Yasamohite jiva. Yasamohite jiva. The souls are completely an illusion. Yasamohite jiva. What is that? Yasamohite jiva, atmakam tri vikatma tri. Atmanam tri gunatmakam. Paropi manyate naradam tatkritam chapipajite. That when the living entities come under the control of illusion, Maya, they're completely an illusion. And therefore they suffer the threefold miseries. And he thinks himself to be a product of the material energy. Although the living entity is actually transcendental to all of this. We're simply not exactly imagining, but we are imagining in the sense that we're experiencing it, but it's not what we think it is. The reality is different. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva, Anartha Pasamo Sakshat Bhakti-yoga Radhokshajam, that he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam in order so the living entities can get out of this illusory existence. Anartha Pasamo Sakshat Bhakti-yoga Radhokshajam. So they can perform bhakti-yoga and get out of the illusory existence. Okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, you said there is no peaceful place in the material world. And then the question can come, sometimes devotees or aspiring devotees or other people, they have some practical situations in their life, like maybe they need to finish, do the final exam for the university or something like this, which takes more time, and they say after this exam they will practice more seriously.
Yeah,
so
sure. Everyone says that all the time. After I get my first million, then I'll give a donation. Yeah, people say that. That's Maya. One may have to do something extra, but to think that afterwards I'm going to become Krishna conscious is pretty risky. Studying biology, and then you leave your body during the class and you come back as a frog. It's pretty risky. Hopefully there's a frog incarnation you can follow. Anything else? Yes.
Thank you for inspiring lecture. I would just like to ask, how can we recognize when we are doing something, how can we recognize that we are somehow or other trying to enjoy it separate from Krishna? So how can we recognize that in our activities and then rectify that?
Well, that's all we're doing in the material world, is trying to enjoy separately from Krishna. We can only see it when we actually try to do something for Krishna. Then we can see what the difference is. Vishaya vinivartante nirharasi dehinam rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishva nivartate. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, one becomes fixed in consciousness. So when we do devotional service, and we get a higher taste and a higher experience, then we can see the difference between being in Maya and being in the spiritual energy. And the more we're in the spiritual energy, then the more there's a difference between being in the spiritual energy and being in Maya. So we can recognize more quickly the difference between them. The more intense, the more steadily we're in the spiritual energy, then we can see when we slip into the material energy. But we're mostly in the material energy, then we sometimes another find ourselves in the spiritual energy. We see the difference and we appreciate it, but then we forget about it after some time. Anything else? Hvala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Haribol.